Hello, everyone. It's good to see you. Everybody's still awake and refreshed after the break, right? Yes, I hear a lively yes. Okay, well, it's a bit of a tough act to follow because that was such a wonderful lecture. Let's give her a hand. I learned many things. I really learned a lot of things. I've heard a few lectures of Tremela's course before, but some details that, there's just so much content to actually cover, so she did a wonderful job. I just wanted to add on to one thing about, I heard a story about Tremela, like when they were doing the speaking tours, after Tremela had given birth, before she could even recover from giving birth, her father said, we're going to go on a speaking tour. So she just went into the corner of the room and just cried by herself. And I always thought, she just takes everything into herself, like all the pain and suffering. She doesn't complain, she just endures it. And I think most people don't understand that because she never defends herself. She never talks about her pain that she's gone through. So, yeah. And also about Damonim too, which her father said, if we lived like Damonim, the way she attended to her parents, then we wouldn't have persecution. But I don't know, I guess we didn't do that. But because Damonim said that Tremela was her mother, not her daughter. She didn't look at her as her daughter, but as her own mother. Like, yeah, as the rest of us do. Okay, so let's begin here. Yes. I would like to say first that if you wanted to check your spiritual status or your growth on your spirit, one thing that I do is if I can stare at your parents' picture. If I can stare for a long time, then I feel like I'm kind of connected. But like in Cheonpyeong, when I go to Cheonpyeong, if I keep looking away, I feel like I'm hiding something, and then I need to cleanse myself and repent and be able to connect more. So it might work for you, I don't know, but it works for me. So yeah, that's a helpful tip on life of faith that worked for me. How do I go into this? This is the next person. Okay, thank you, Matthew. So life of faith. Life of faith stands for conviction that is carried out in daily life. The way of faith is like maneuvering a boat. The moment you stop rowing, you are swept backward. Yes, it is definitely a battle every single day to keep up with the life of faith. First thing you could do is wake up and you start praying. That's again example that your father taught us to do, and it kind of connects, like your life is like a cycle. So as you go to sleep, you should be able to be praying to the Heavenly Parents, and then when you wake up, it'll be an automatic transition to the next day. I can't say 100% of the time I think that way, but I do try to, and I do try to wake up offering my first thoughts to heaven. And it definitely does change your outcome of the rest of the day. And sometimes when I didn't have time to do Hundoke before I went out, but the prayer itself was kind of like a spiritual protection, so that if anybody did anything or something happened, I was protected in that way. And yeah. And about the maneuvering the boat, if anyone's been on a boat, you start spinning in circles if you're not going forward. And I would think that the people who try to get close to God the most are the ones who are most attacked by, can call Satan or evil forces or whatever. But I don't think of Satan as such a big, like, devil or something, some picture of this monster. I just think of it as like that evil force that takes you away from love, takes you away from God, takes you away from being close to other people. So to me and also self-centeredness, as Dr. Richardson mentioned last week, that the self-centeredness is actually the sinfulness that's separating us. So we got to keep fighting every single day. I guess I'll go to the next one. The purpose of faith is to conquer death on earth. If your awareness of death is weak, you cannot maintain a powerful life of faith. Always lead a life of attendance. Consider for what purpose whenever you speak, wake up, or sleep, and in whatever you do. Every thought, word, and action is engraved on your spirit self. It's kind of I want to say, it's not morbid to think about death a lot, but it does remind you that this life is very short, and that we're here only a short time, and the whole purpose we're here is to grow our spirit for the next world, which is the kingdom of heaven. In heaven, And that's where we're going to be breathing love. So if we're not able to breathe love in this world, we're not going to be able to breathe love in the next world. So we need to practice that and grow in our daily lives. And yeah, if you do realize that your life is short, you tend to do more things in your life. You realize that the time is going very quickly, and it's just a blink of an eye, so you have to figure out, set up like a time frame of your life of where you want to be and what you want to be able to accomplish, because without a goal or a purpose, it won't just happen automatically. You have to set goals ahead of time. And I would say for whenever you sleep or whatever you do, I kind of like to go deep into conversations with people. Like, I don't really like small talk a lot of the time. So even in Cheongpyeong, we usually just talk about the food, and then we say like, oh, this is kimchi, rice, and we talk about the food a lot. But I try to think about, what about the, in Hungnam prison when they didn't have any food, or, how lucky we are to be able to have that. It's just a training, just training your mind to think a certain way. You can choose to think this way, or you can choose to think a different way. And you yourself are guiding your own life. No one's going to have to tell you differently. You have to decide it yourself. And sometimes you might feel like stuck and you need some help, someone to pull you up. Sometimes that help comes, but don't expect it to come. So just be able to pick up yourself, basically, and rely on Heavenly Parents. And through that relationship, you'll grow stronger. Every thought, word, and action, I read this in the Peace Messages before, and I read it so many times that I had memorized it, and I thought about it so often that it kind of made me worry about what to think. That was when I started taking it seriously and I would say brainwashing myself. Brainwashing myself into, making that high noon settlement. You know what your Father talks about, high noon settlement, when your spirit has no shadow or no past or no sins, right? That's not an easy thing to do, because we're completely surrounded in a sinful world. Everything around us is, not of God's intention. So we have to be able to see the difference and clear that out and be not of that world. We're in this world, but not of that world. We are your parents' children. We are setting a new tradition. We're going against the way of history. Basically, all of history has been sinful until now. So we're the foundation, the starting point. It's always hard when you have the starting point. And then in the future, a couple thousand years, people remember this time and really respect and honor the people who sacrificed the most. And we will be remembered in history. It won't be such a terrible thing to go through this, and then, at the end, we're just kind of, okay, well, that happened. But in the end, actually, we'll really respect the people who did make the foundation for us, especially the early days in the church. I hope that you can study more about the early days of how the church was, and how they didn't have food, and how much they were in love with God and doing everything they could for God, and understanding how precious it is to know who the Messiah is and to attend Him, really attending Him. I think sometimes we forget the importance because for me, I've grown up with it, so I kind of think, oh yeah, yes, we know who the Messiah is, but do we really know what that means? Do we know how amazing that is? So I hope that we can remember that and remind ourselves that. Do you want to follow your dispensational path just thinking, how many more years do I have to go? Or will you say, God, I am destined to go. I was born for this mission. You can ask yourself that. Sometimes we do feel like it's never ending. I remember one thing he said, that the path of restoration is like walking in deep water, and you're neck deep, and it's endlessly far destination. So to have that willpower to go to the endlessly far destination when you're just trudging, and it feels like you're not going anywhere. It's really slowly to get there. But we have to have that in ourselves, that perseverance. That's the only thing that's going to carry us all the way through to the end. And to understand that we were born for this is a helpful thing. I have my notes on my cell phone, so please don't think I'm checking my Kakao Talk. God sent me a message. Yes, okay. Absolute faith can alter destiny. When your faith is big, reality seems small. The dividing line between happiness and misery is determined by how close and how intimate our relationship is with heaven. I might say absolute faith can alter destiny often, because that's like my favorite quote. So, yeah, but I always try to think, what does that actually mean? What is destiny? What is it to change the destiny? And I don't know. I remember another thing True Father said about like trying to use the spirit world, trying to move the spirit world is like trying to stop a storm. So trying to stop a storm is not an easy thing to do. So therefore, moving the spirit world is definitely not easy to do. And it's something we can't see the spirit world, so we don't really know how it works, but it works based on conditions, like conditions of heart. The condition, like the foundation of substance is based on relationships. So that's where the whole purpose of the faith is to get to the relationships. That's where we're going to be actually making progress. But without the foundation of faith, we're not going to be able to go there. Yeah, when your faith is big, reality seems small. Also, the world becomes very small. You realize that everything is just based on connections, and that just a few connections, you can talk to anybody. 6 relationships, I think it is. And anyway, I've witnessed to a few like famous people, I guess. Like I barely knew who they were, but apparently they were pretty famous. And I just gave them like True Father's autobiography, and I was like, this is a great book that I hope you can read. And I didn't tell them it's the Messiah or anything. They could figure that out if they wanted to. But I was thinking, whoever these top leaders are, or top famous people, if we can get them, if they can understand this, then thousands could follow easily. So it's not a big problem. Like, my faith is really big, I guess you could say. Like, I think if anybody took the time to study divine principle, they can't deny it. They wouldn't be able to say this is not true, because it is completely true and logical. It's just that usually people don't want to see it. They don't want to hear it. They're happy in their own life and whatever their life is and whatever their beliefs already are. But I think if they're really open, then we would be able to move a lot. And that's the thing, we have to be able to do conditions for them. Conditions actually work, and prayer actually works. We'll get to that later. How close and how intimate our relationship is with heaven. Yeah, it definitely, when I'm able to feel closer to God, it goes up and down. It goes up and down. But when I am closer to God, I feel like I can be more close to people as well. And that does make me happier. And without it, like, I kind of put myself into misery on purpose. I guess you could say evil spirits, but I choose to not be close to God. It's too much to be close to God all the time, I guess, but but when I go through that loneliness and that struggling, when I'm not going to God on purpose, then I realize how valuable it is that I can come to God after the fact. And God always is forgiving, always loving, and I know that, but I don't want to expect that. I don't want to expect that He's going to forgive me for everything. But at the same time, it allows me to not hold myself back from God, because I know He's going to accept me anyway. He, she, our heavenly parents. And to have a relationship with God, we have to understand who God is, and that's why knowing true parents is so special, because we really wouldn't know about God's heart or God's character or God's personality or all of the things that God has gone through and endured, except because of true parents, True Father has told us. So because we were able to read His words and understand them, we too can understand God, and by understanding God, we can have that relationship. It's as with any relationship. When you meet somebody new, you don't know them so well, and it's kind of, you're distant from that person, but as time goes on, you learn more about them, you realize how special they are and how wonderful each person is. You just forget about some bad habits or something. Everybody has bad habits, but I'm talking about like the essence of the person, their character, because each person is unique, in God's image. And sometimes we have to grow our heart too, our muscles. I think for me, when I meet people who, don't have faith, they're atheists or whatever, then I kind of forgive a lot of what they do, because they don't understand. So they don't know how to treat other people. They don't know, not just them, but a lot of us. But it's just like, you just become like God. You become like God's heart. And try to see from God's point of view, try to look at people. So if you have a problem, like somebody, said something to you or hurt your feelings, it's like you can be upset about it, and you can take it, be upset, but you can also just let it go. It's very easy to just let it go, and it's just a choice. It's between choosing to keep it and being resentful, or choosing to let it go. And it takes practice. I would say it takes practice. But if we can learn that earlier in life, then I think we'd have a easier time later on. So we can just be able to forgive those who trespass against us. For our own sake, and the origin of Hundake. The Chinese character for Hun consists of two characters joined together, words and stream. The character Dok combines the characters for words and cell. John 1, chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The words and stream, words and stream should be flowing. So when we have water that stagnates, it's going to be dirty and you can't drink it. It's not clear. So the water should be flowing, just as he's using this example. So when we hear Handokei, it's not just for our own selves, but we need to be able to remember it and then tell it to other people, even in our own family or our friends. And you don't have to say, this is from my church. You can just say, think positively, or, kind of make it into just normal conversation. But you can use that to teach other people. That's how you're going to be able to clean yourself, by learning it and then teaching it. That's how you really learn it, by teaching it, actually. Otherwise, you forget. Was the Word, and the Word was God. True Father's words do really recreate your spirit. I think I've grown so much only because prayer really grows you, but especially the Handokei. I can't emphasize this enough. If you do Handokei, that will be your way to heaven, basically. I think I have that later, but it really is the way to go. It might sound boring to read the same things again and again, but at the same time, we forget it again and again. So we need to read it, we need to study it, and we need to absorb it and practice it right away. Because if you read it and then you just think, oh, that's interesting, but you don't practice it, it'll be forgotten. You have to learn it again. So start practicing right away. Words of life taste good, even if you eat them every day. People who enjoy hearing the words of the principle until the day they die will absolutely not go to hell. You may say, we know these things, but you only know in your heads. This has nothing to do with the realm of Shimjong. The more you hear these words, the more the heavenly realm of life will come to you. Yeah. Basically, this sums it up. So, read Handokei. It works kind of automatically when you're learning Handokei from that. But then also, when you're witnessing to other people, it's not just teaching them by words and what you say, but actually really loving them. So that's where the test comes in. That's, I think, the biggest difficulty I have is I have it in my head, and I could lecture the whole divine principle to somebody on a napkin in a cafe. I could totally do that. But I want to be able to love them. So I need to have that foundation of love so that they know I'm not just witnessing for them to join my church. Because they're going to hate that. I would hate that if somebody just talked to me because they want me to join their church. I wouldn't join just because of that. But I would join because they love me, or because I see that they have a good families and that they're very happy, and I want to know how are they doing that. So I think that's the truth definitely is a part of it. It's like the fishing hook. But to pull them in, we need to love them. And that's where our heartstrings will be stretched the most. Oh, another thing a True Father said about a home church is that if you want to unite your mind and body, then if you really love the people that you're witnessing to, in the morning you wake up and you just run to them because you want to see them, because you love them, because you miss them, even though you saw them yesterday. You really love them so much, you want to see them. So with that kind of heart, then it would be very easy to unite your mind and body, which I think I'll talk to you about later again. Okay, reason for church attendance. You need companions in faith. That's one of the biggest reasons. You need people to talk to about the struggles that we go through as Moonies. we're kind of unique in the world, and we kind of understand each other's like suffering because of that. So we can kind of join together in that. And yeah. And with that unity, if we have unity, there's so much that we can do. But without the unity, we're just going to keep being stuck in the same spot. We're never going to go anywhere. Because it's a principle. We can't change it the way we want it. It's the way God made it. So we have to be able to make the unity. And if we have that unity, anything is possible. If we have God and your parents, we already have the huge foundation. It's just up to us to really unite together and unite with brothers and sisters instead of being judgmental. I think a big problem, especially like not these days, but I think it's always been a big problem of sometimes we only want perfect people in the church, and if they're not perfect, we kind of ostracize them and criticize them and not really welcome them so much because they'd made mistakes or did, bad things to the church or to members. But I think we have to learn to forgive them and have a parental heart. And because if we're not even accepting our own, then we're not going to be able to embrace the world. So that's where it starts first, is our family and our extended church family, and then the rest of humankind family. Attend church to connect with heavenly parents vertically and brothers and sisters horizontally. Create an environment of love for all family members to feel welcomed. I hope we can do this. Not that we're already doing that, actually. Life of prayer. Always pray in your life. As you walk, pray that you may be able to live according to God's words, and that his words may be transformed into flesh and blood within you. Pray often to touch limitless spiritual power. You must become a person who lives by this power. Whether your prayer is realized or not depends on whether it is in accordance with God's purpose. Sometimes I do walk and pray, and actually a couple of nights ago, it was Friday night, I was walking home from a class I was doing, and I was just thinking about the air, and I was thinking, your father was just here 4 years ago, and he was breathing this air. I'm gonna cry again. He was just here, so. It wasn't long ago that we could be alive at the same time. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so sometimes it just, you just think of something and it hits you. Thanks. Sorry. And to pray often to touch limitless spiritual power. To me, spiritual things would be like how they met Damonim's brother, friend of the brother. Like that is a completely spiritual thing to happen. Just like meeting someone the chances of meeting them are very slim, but they met them on the street. And I think the things, to me, like that is spiritual. There's also other spiritual phenomena, like seeing things or hearing things or having big revelations. But I'm kind of more into like subtle things, just meeting people and the timing being right. And sometimes you just like I don't know if I said this before, but one time I was walking and I didn't get my paycheck before when I first came to Korea. And I had spent all my money on rent and everything, and I didn't have much saved up because I came to Korea with nothing. That was another thing. People called me a little bit crazy because I do things out of total faith. I bought a one-way ticket coming to Korea because of your father's Seonghwa, and I had no plan, but I thought I would just fundraise and then go back home. But that was 4 years ago, so I feel like that God had a different plan than I had. I had a plan, but that's not what God had in mind. So, but anyway, this day happened, and I was walking, and I was thinking, what should I do? What should I ask? What should I do for the bus money just to go to work and come back? Because I was supposed to get paid that day. And then I found a Team Money card, like a bus card, and it had like 5,000 won on it. And I was like, that's so perfect. And I've never seen one on the street before or since then. It was the only day that I actually needed it. And I felt like, I actually looked to like, did anybody drop this? And there was nobody there, and I was like, oh, this is directly from God. Thank you so much. like, sometimes things like that happen, and yeah, like that was a big thing for me, so I can remember this well, but a lot of times this happens, like subtle things happen. Or another time I was in Champyeong actually, and I was thinking, I'm a little bit hungry right now, and out of nowhere, a Japanese sister jumps in front of me and she hands me an orange, and she just gives it to me and walks away, and I was like, what? Okay, it's from Spirit World or something? Because usually, you eat the times, the breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then you're not hungry anytime. But I think I had missed it or something, and I was just thinking it. Just as the moment I thought of it, she just hands me an orange. So I don't know. I thought that's to me spiritual. Whether your prayer is realized or not depends on whether it is in accordance with God's purpose. I think there's a big difference between praying for something for yourself, like, God, please give me money, or please give me wisdom or power or knowledge. These things, if you're praying for yourself, it's not going to happen. It's not going to work. If you pray it for God's purpose, if you say, like, please give me, or please give me money so that I can build a church for you, or I can, send out missionaries to other countries, and then we can do your will. It's not for my purpose, it's for your purpose. Then I think there will be a way to do that. And that actually, that did happen to me when I decided that I wanted to liberate all my ancestors. I had gone to Champyeong before, but I didn't really believe in it for a long time. And I was like struggling for a few years, and then all the lectures were talking about it, and Trifalgar said it, and I thought, okay, if Trifalgar said it, I guess I have to do it then. And I thought it's better to do it than not do it, because if it's real, then I have an amazing opportunity to be able to take my ancestors out of a bad place, which is amazing. And it only costs, some money to do that. In the old days, actually, we didn't need to do that. It was returning resurrection. That was how we were supposed to do it. But because we weren't able to do that, a plan B came into being, and then that's why Champyeong Providence started. So otherwise we would be able to do the plan A. So I decided to do that, and then I prayed, like, please, bless me with money so that I can liberate all of my ancestors, and suddenly I got so many, like, opportunities, and I was able to make a lot, for a long period of time, and then I was like, I wasn't using anything for myself, completely just everything. Well, I hope I wasn't using $3 for myself, then I'll be cursed now. That was a bit scary, because he gave everything to build that bridge, but kept a little bit. But no, just enough to survive and, not have to worry. But anyway, when I was able to do that, and I felt like it's a mission, that was my mission. I had to do that before I did anything else. And now that I finished, I feel like accomplished. And actually, anyway, my job situation is actually stopping suddenly. I have to get another job, but it's no problem. But I was thinking that only worked for the time that I needed it and that I wanted to fulfill this, and everything was like, it was moving, and once it finished, it was done again. I have to start over again. But this time I'll do another mission, maybe mission in the Philippines or something. Sounds pretty hot out there. It's going to be exciting. Right. Okay, the meaning of tithing. A tithe means that by offering 1/10 of your material possessions to God, you make a condition equal to having offered all you have. If you tithe with sincere devotion, you will never starve to death, and your descendants will never suffer for want of material things. Matthew chapter 6, verse 33. But ye seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all things shall be added unto you. I think for tithing, everything that we have is given to us by heavenly parents, even our life and the world, the creation around us. And if we're grateful for that, and we understand that it's from heavenly parents, not based on our own luck or our own will, but it's coming from God, then if we offer that back up to God, he can bless us even more, and he can give us more blessings. Because true Father would do that. He would offer 100% to God, and then God would, bless him even more in multitudes. And now we have a huge foundation. And I think if you just offer like 100% and you don't think about it, then how do I say? Well, I wanted to say something different actually. if you offer 100% to God, it's not really taking responsibility because you're just giving everything. But if you offer the 10% on representing everything, then the rest that you have can be used to do something that you want to show God and be responsible for. Because the 10% will be given to the church, and they will be able to, pay for electricity for this room and things like that. But for the rest of it, it's your responsibility. Seek first the kingdom and his righteousness. So again, don't worry about money situations. Like my mom, she was always stressing about it so much, but I always was thinking, why is she worrying about it so much? If you take care of God, if you live for God, God will take care of you. I mean, not that he'll just do everything for you. You have to work, you have to do something too. But it's not, you're not stressing about it. You're putting money first sometimes, but money shouldn't be first. That comes after. First is God, and then money will come after like that. So don't worry about what to eat, what to wear, all these things. God knows. Mind and body unity. In order to restore your original mind, you have to discard your superficial and egoistic self and find your meek and humble self that bows before God. When I read this, I realized I didn't really understand the meaning of meek. I thought of it as being weak, but weak is not what he's saying here. He's saying meek. And the Merriam-Webster definition is having or showing a quiet and gentle nature, not wanting to fight or argue with other people, enduring injury with patience and without resentment. I would think to, be humble before God, because you have nothing to boast about before God. God's been through everything. And then also realize that we don't have to boast to other people. We're not trying to show off anything to other people because, that's not good for our character. But God is there. God is watching everything. So you have to just relate with God. Don't worry about what other people think about you. I mean, Jesus did everything he could for God, but they still hated him, and they still, killed him. So even if you're doing everything you can, don't worry about if other people don't understand that. Sometimes they might judge you or not understand and think you're the opposite of who you really are, but that's up to them to understand who you really are. So don't worry about boasting it. Anything? Perfection of heart. Matthew 5:48. You therefore must be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Through give and take action of love with God, your mind can dwell on the source of perfection, thus achieving oneness with God. I think sometimes Christians might forget about this quote because they think that God is so amazing and great and we're so fallen and pathetic that we can never actually reach that standard and we can never connect to God because we're so lowly. And it is true in a fallen sense, in a fallen world, we are pretty lowly, but at the same time we have true parents and we have this quote here, which tells us that we have to be perfect. So we have to understand what does that actually mean to be perfect. It doesn't mean that you're not going to trip or you're not going to drop anything, but it means that your heart will be perfect, the same as God's heart. And then, again, having that give and take, you will be able to achieve that over time, having that give and take. The world of heart transcends time and space. The word of God and prayer are ultimately love. In this way, when you come to know the teachings with both your mind and your heart, you will have no option but to go to fulfill the purpose of those teachings, and you will have no choice but to fight with Satan. Yes, that's where we're at, the world of heart. I think that's another thing when we're reading Hundake, we can understand God's heart in a deeper way. Not just reading it, don't just read through it, but try to envision if you really like that, if you really feel it in your heart, as if you were in Jesus' shoes or in True Father's shoes, True Mother's shoes. A big thing about the divine principle that I think about is the whole purpose is to really unite with your parents. Again, I say this, but If we can understand that our heart is the same as your parents' heart, if we can have that, then there's no problem. Okay, a life of faith consists in yearning for the world of heart. He who is heartistic exceeds he who is faithful. The teacher with whom we have the closest relationship is our heart. Our heart is more precious to us than our friends, and even more precious than our parents. Yeah, you can always ask yourself, you ask your heart, how are you feeling? How are you doing? Are you in a good situation? And you can always hear your heart talking to you if you listen carefully. It's a quiet voice, but it does. And if you ever hear that your heart is crying or in a not good position, I heard that you're supposed to run. You have to run. If you're in a bad situation and your heart is saying this is not good, then you better listen to your heart and get out of there. But sometimes, we don't hear that, so we make mistakes. So I hope we can listen carefully to our own hearts. Actually, I kind of made up this term of I wanted to get a PhD, and it actually is a doctorate in philosophy, but then I decided to make it perfected heart degree. So I wanted a PhD. I was thinking, how am I going to do this? There's no university that gives that. Yes, and I kind of, I was going to say, sometimes to make myself, stay on track, that I'm really praying to God, I don't use an alarm to wake up in the morning, so if I'm late to work, it's really bad. I might get fired. So I pray really hard. It's please wake me up so I can get to work. I can do, things like that. But most of the time I wake up I do actually use an alarm, but I try to not use it so that I can rely more on spirit world. Yeah. Faith plays the role of a guide. Therefore, it only takes you to the gate and not to the city. You need a true love token to enter the city. Yes, faith, we need faith to carry us through, but love is really the thing that will bring us into the city. And love is the whole purpose of the faith. And then just in anything you do, when I was filling up the water tank before, I had a water bottle, this was a long time ago, and as I was filling it, I was thinking this is God's tears. And when I thought that, when I was filling up the water bottle, then I cried tears. I moved my own heart based on what my own thought was, thinking about God's feeling. And I think we need to have more experiences like that. It's not often that I can do that, but that one experience I always remember it, and I was thinking, wow, just thinking about God's tears brought me to tears. And I hope we can have more experiences like that. Oh, and one thing I heard about heaven and hell, I kind of picture heaven as just you're in this world, and then you die, your body just dies, but you're still standing here. I feel like you're still, not so much would be changed, except you're in the spirit world, and your thoughts and your feelings, everything's pretty much the same. So if you're in that environment, if you're in a heavenly environment, you'll easily transition to the next world, into heaven. But if you're kind of in the hellish environment, then we'll be transitioning to that. So you already know where you're going to be, actually, based on how you're living now. You can feel it. And if it's a line that we're going up is heaven and down is hell, going up and down, just make sure you try to be up more than down. Just try to stay up. You'll go down, but just go up again. So the majority, the higher percentage will be in heaven, so chances are higher you'll be in heaven. And another thing about heaven I would think is, Trifella said that we have to run towards heaven. We have to have that burning heart, that desire that really seeks after heaven. And we have that, we're running. But if we can't run, we have to at least walk. Keep walking. And if you can't walk, crawl, just like a baby, just crawling. And if you can't even crawl, just look. Just look towards heaven. Whatever you do, just go that way, and you'll definitely get there eventually. Yeah. Okay, I think that kind of wraps it up. So, fighting. God bless you guys. I do.